CFEPS program before. And there are a whole bunch of programs. People only know about Section 8 and vouchers, but there are a whole bunch of programs, and they'd be surprised that some of these programs allow you to move to other states and other cities. So I thought it was important, since Breaking Ground is in that arena, that they come and, one, tell us how many CityFEPS vouchers that they're looking for. Two, talk to us about CityFEPS and other programs that exist inside of their facility. I think that's very important, because we're assuming that everyone there has a mental health issue, and that's not true. So I think that's something that needs to be talked about, and it's unfortunate that more people aren't here to hear that as they were when they were here and as part of the other project, the housing project, because all of this kind of folds in together. So, but the people who are here, they're going to receive the pearls that Breaking Ground has to offer, and hopefully they'll share. Okay.
Yeah, excuse me, Beverly. It's Kareem Martin, the Breaking Ground presenter. And I don't see them on the call, but yeah, that's their name. Just FYI.
But I thought they committed. They
yeah.
confirmed.
I mean, let me contact Dante and see what's going on.
Because Dante told me they just confirmed that. I called him yesterday to make sure, and he said, Beverly, I said, have they confirmed? Because our housing meeting's tomorrow. And Dante said, well, Beverly, they confirmed just a half hour ago.
Yeah, let me just reach out to him. Just I'll be with you in a second.
Okay, thank you. So, Miss Diane, how are you?
I am good. I am good. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Have your summer started off with a bang? Were you able to go to Family Day?
I was not able to go to Family Day. Wasn't that a week ago or something like that?
Yeah, the 3rd of June, the first weekend in June.
Right. Yeah, no, they had able to go. How was it? I'm sure it was beautiful.
They had a lot of resources out there. Housing didn't table, but I did go through and pick up a lot of resources, not just for housing committee, but also for seniors as well. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if you've noticed that it's taken us a minute to catch back up to where we were before COVID. Between communication, organizing, advocacy, all those things are taking a minute to catch up.
Yeah, and that's true.
Yeah, I was surprised about that, because resources are what they were during COVID. They haven't returned to pre-COVID status. So so a lot of people are really struggling. So we're trying to see if we can expedite their access to services. So I was just wondering, because when I passed through, because I went through early, I didn't see you. So I was just wondering if you had an opportunity to go later.
No, but I knew about it, but of course I had something else I had to do on that day. So of course I wasn't able to go, but
not a problem.
It's going to be more. We know we're going to probably be doing some more things,
Yeah,
we are. I mean, I know it seems to be a little slow, since COVID, but it's going to pick up again.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question. Are we planning on meeting in person at any point, or are we going to stay with Zoom?
See, I'm not sure. Two things. One, I haven't heard Fred give anything about us meeting in person. And you were the third person to ask me that. Have you guys heard that we as committees can meet if we want to? The board hasn't met yet.
I haven't.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because right now, from what I understand, we're still all under the umbrella of meeting virtually.
Beverly, just to let you know, I saw on a calendar today that the executive board meeting is scheduled to be at Brian Cunningham's office and next Tuesday, and that the BA is what it says, to be determined is what it says for the board meeting. And
is that Brian Cunningham's office?
Yeah, for the executive board meeting. It's got the address on Empire Boulevard. It's on the calendar. I checked just before coming here. I noticed.
Go ahead.
I was trying to come to this meeting. So I saw on a calendar that the executive board meeting next week, the Tuesday meeting, is at Brian Cunningham's office. And the board meeting says to be determined. And at the meeting last night, Mia said they're trying to secure a location for that board meeting. They don't,
Okay.
just so you know, that's what I know.
No, thank you. That's interesting. And since we're doing just so you knows, for right now we're working on a space. A couple weeks ago or a month ago, it was Teresa, as a matter of fact, who brought up, and quite a few people have communicated their frustration with being able to win or connect to a lottery. So we reached out to, I was in a meeting and HPD was presenting. So I reached out to them and asked them, would they be willing to do an in-person sign up? And they said yes. They allowed us to pick the date. We're going to be picking the venue. So right now we're locking down the space, because the space will have to have Wi-Fi. Because the reason it has to have Wi-Fi is because HBD has allowed us, is supporting us in our desire to help those people who, one, haven't signed in to Housing Connect yet, or two, don't know where to go or how to do it. Those people are invited to come to our meeting, our workshop. It's not even a meeting, it's a workshop. Those people are able to come, and when they leave, if they follow the presentation, and there'll be people milling around the room, if they follow the presentation that HPD is presenting, they will have signed up for the lottery. They will have signed up for Housing Connect. So I thought it was a great thing that they supported us in our desire to do that. So right now it looks like it's going to be on the 28th, but we still need to find a space, and that space has to have Wi-Fi. So that's to give you guys the FYI heads up, so you know the date and the time will be at the time our meetings are. You know what, guys? It may be a little earlier. It may be at 6, because it's going to be a workshop. It's going to be in person. It's going to be people bringing their laptop, bringing their cell phones if they're comfortable doing that, and being able to work through registering for a lottery, showing them all the properties that are listed under the lottery system, being able to pick the ones that they're eligible for, following up with all the documentation that they have to submit and how to submit it, all of that. So anybody you know, once the space has been decided, keep your ear out, keep checking your emails, because anybody you know who's interested in looking for an apartment inside of New York City and departments listed through the house, through the lottery, let them know this is an opportunity. If they haven't already signed up, this is an opportunity, and remind them that the original lottery, Housing Connect, is not the one that's on deck now. They created, I think it's Housing Connect 2. When you Google it, you'll see it. The original Housing Connect that was maybe 5-7 years ago, they're no longer using that one. So if you're in that one and you're looking for an apartment that has come up, you're going to have to transfer your information or go in and register again.
Oh, okay.
That they will not pull information from the original Housing Connect into the new system. They're not doing that. That was a question we specifically asked. So if you know someone who says, oh, I'm already registered, how long ago did they register? Have they registered recently? If the answer is no, they need to re-register. They need to go online and pull up or attend our workshop. And we will help them register for the new Housing Connect, for the new lottery. Okay?
Okay. Is that a successful program? I mean, I know it's an important one, but you know, what are the numbers of people who actually, get through the lottery, get apartments? And
Ms.
we can
Diane,
start out
quite
by
a few
saying,
people. Go ahead, you start out first.
Yeah,
you go first.
we can start out by asking the apartments over here by the Armory.
Major Owens?
Yeah, because I remember they were doing the lottery, and my son also put in for it, but he never heard anything back.
Right.
Once he put the application in. But I was just wondering, all of the apartments are full now?
From what I'm told, all the apartments have been occupied. But the unfortunate part, to answer your original question, is finding apartments through the lottery system is biased. Those of us who do this work and the community boards, all of our community boards can say that comfortably because of the number of people who've applied for the lottery, the number of people of color who've applied, and the number of people of color who have gotten right up to the interview part. And were not successful.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan, but it is a system that everybody's using, that puts their housing, their apartments as part of the lottery. That as of right, those who are building private housing, they don't have to. But others, that come under HTPD, come under HUD, they're in the lottery. And no matter how many arguments we put up, those of us who are in this work, they're still choosing to use the lottery because in the final decision, unfortunately, even when it comes to people who win, the final decision is the developer. That's the next downside to all of it. So, like you said, when we come to the Major Owens, or now it's called, I forget what the housing development's called, that's behind the community center. When it comes to that, a large number of those apartments are market. Maybe 10 of them are truly affordable. It's not a lot.
Really?
It's not a lot. And
Excuse me, Beverly?
Yes.
Yeah, so Dante, he sent the credentials to the Breaking Ground rep. So we're just waiting to hear back from him. We sent it before, so just just waiting to hear see if they're gonna join the meeting. And Teresa and Jay have their hand up. Just a moment.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So to get back to that, it's the system that's popular, but it's not the system that's fair.
That's what I thought.
It's not the system that's fair. It's the system that's popular, but it's not the system that's fair. Okay.
Unfortunate. Mm-hmm.
And we were hoping when they created the new Housing Connect that it would be different, but it's just more technical, more computer oriented. The process hasn't changed, but because it's the system that's in place, we're having to educate people who want apartments to use it. It doesn't mean we're advocates of it.
Right.
Okay.
Got
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Teresa?
Yeah, so just to make it clear, there's going to be a workshop where we're going to learn how to use Housing Connect, basically, so we can help other people, or?
No, you have to be an ambassador to help other people. What will happen at this workshop is those individuals who have the desire to register for the lottery will be able to do it here. Oh,
so I couldn't go and learn how to do it and help others.
You can learn how to do it, but you can't. Only ambassadors are able to help people sign up for the lottery. And so they can go to the community board. The community board can walk them through it, but they have ambassadors now to help people navigate that.
So ambassadors will be at this meeting to help people.
HPD will be there, and we will work to see if we can identify ambassadors in this community, because every borough has ambassadors. So, but first of all, ambassador is a non-paid position. So that means it's volunteer. So that means we'll have to find individuals who've done that. And there's a certain training that you take. Okay, but you can go and be able to talk to people about it. You can go and learn what HPD is sharing with us.
Maybe we should
Knowledge
host
is-
an ambassador training.
Okay, no, because HPD does that. Okay, so let's allow, Teresa, let's allow the individuals who want to register for the lottery, let's empower them to register for the lottery. Let's not delay the process in trying to identify someone who can help them when they can help themselves. That's what our job is as a community board, to empower people with resources and knowledge. That's our job.
Yeah, I'm very interested in finding out how to do that.
Okay, so go to the workshop and sit and take notes. And other people will be able to go and register.
I'm hoping we get some flyers and are able to, I can hand them out.
But that group that you were talking about that wanted to learn how to register for the lottery and wanted to register for the lottery, you can invite them.
Yeah, for sure.
The ones at your church?
It's not it's a church on my street. You know, it was it was people that were in line to get the at the food pantry.
Okay. Jay?
So I would hope to go over there and hand out flyers, you know.
Okay.
And around, you know, wherever. But
okay.
I'm just looking to see what's happening exactly. So if, you know, people, I can.
Jay?
Clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Great. Hello. Hi, Beverly.
Yes.
Hi, Tara. And I see Diane. I've never officially met you. Are you the same person, if I could ask this informally, who resides, I think, in the southeast part of the district near Troy? Maybe there was a person who was interested in issues near Troy Avenue in Albany. I'm not sure if you're in the southeast part of the district.
No.
Okay, gotcha. My bad.
No, I'm not.
So the reason I bring it up is just that the Vital Brooklyn projects is something I was very interested in. I have a website that I created that tells people about all of the different projects. It's eastflatbush.info. So it's www.eastflatbush.info. And there's, you know, in terms of empowering people, I think that the community board has to inform people as to what the construction is on Vital Brooklyn. There's maybe 3 or 4 massive different projects that are happening. So if you go to eastflatbush.info, that's www.eastflatbush.info, it's a library of everything that's out there, and it'll inform people. And there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of problems happening. And what I wanted to ask Beverly is, I think we don't know if we have a quorum tonight. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members of the housing committee. So if I wanted to make a motion tonight, I don't think we have a quorum. Do we have a quorum, Beverly?
But that doesn't negate us from having information. We're not voting on anything tonight. Breaking Ground is presenting.
Right. But I mean, like, if I wanted to make a motion on something from the housing committee that could be taken to the regular board, we'd need a quorum. So I don't know if we have 4 people.
But you first have to discuss it. And this meeting is focused on City FEPS and Breaking Ground.
Right, but
if Breaking Ground doesn't, Jay, if Breaking Ground doesn't show up, then there'll be room for that. But if Breaking Ground does, then we'll move on with the planned agenda.
Sure. There may be stuff, like, since they're not here now, I would just tell you that what I was interested in is doing in the new business section, making a motion. We probably can't do it unless we may have a quorum. So my concern was about oversaturation of social services that may happen in terms of the district, the idea of the fair share. Many people have said, are we dumping a certain amount of social services and certain amount of residential beds just in one area? So people want to know, is there an oversaturation of homeless services on Clarkson Avenue in certain neighborhoods? And the answer is the Department of City Planning has data. There's like a residential beds analysis that is out there. They have the numbers. There's a fair share analysis in which the Department of City Planning could tell you, okay, this is how many residential beds are in each of the districts. And then you could further break down and say, this is how many residential beds for social services are in certain census tracts. Because there's an issue in terms of oversaturation of social services, and there's also an issue in parking. Like the person who's going to present today, Breaking Ground, is part of a development at Kingsborough that's going to have 1,090 units and no parking.
Isn't that something?
1,090 units and no parking. There's 15 units that's going to be for the supermarket there, okay? But there's 1,090 units, no parking. And the people in that neighborhood are in for a big surprise. And
wait. Which project are we talking about, Jay?
Sure. So it's Kingsborough
The
West.
one where Breaking Ground is?
Yeah, Kingsborough West.
What's the name of the supermarket there?
So there's a supermarket that's coming in there. I don't have the name. It's around 8,500 square feet. The supermarket is going to have 15 parking spots. But in terms of everything else that's there, it's 1,090 units with no parking. And then you've got another unit that's going to happen at another development in Kingsborough that's also almost around like, off the top of my head, it's almost like 600.
Khalid, is Breaking Ground here? Because I got to admit,
They
unless
aren't
that
here.
plan has changed,
Yeah.
unless that plan has changed, I'm not familiar with a grocery store being there.
Oh yeah, they have part of the
Hold on, Jay.
Breaking Ground isn't here. It's Kareem Martin is the representative, but he's
not here.
He's not here. No.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay,
you're the
on
number
telephone?
ending.
I'm sorry?
Okay,
Go
you're
ahead,
the number
Khalid, I'm
ending in
sorry.
2246. Okay.
That's him, Khalid,
Yeah,
on the telephone.
Yeah, that's him then.
Yeah. So can
Okay.
I finish my thought?
Well, wait, before you move forward, because
Yeah.
one thing we want to do is maximize this time for authentic information. So Breaking Ground, you're saying and I haven't heard that project had a grocery store. That's the part that you're mentioning I haven't heard before. So that's why I'm asking. Breaking Ground would know that, even though they're not the developer. So Breaking Ground, say his name again, Khalid. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hello?
Kareem Martin.
Kareem Martin, yes.
Okay,
So
Mr. Martin. Are you familiar with? Wait, Jay. Wait. Are you familiar with a grocery store being there?
Maybe let Jay finish.
Can I just finish my thought and then you can go over to him?
Well, but see, this is the thing, Jay. We need to make sure information is true before we move it forward.
Right. And we need to let somebody finish what you're saying, number one.
But
You have to show
if there's
respect.
not going to be a grocery store, why are we
Well, if
discussing
you
that?
listen, if you let me first finish what I'm saying, that's respectful. And then the gentleman could speak about whatever he wants to speak about. I just want to finish what I'm saying. Another 10 seconds.
Okay,
Can I do that?
10 seconds, and then we have the agenda.
Okay, you can start the timer. So basically, everything on my website has specific proof of everything that I say, everything that's out there. It's a library. If you look in it, you'll find it. That's number one. What I would like is I'd like the Department of City Planning to do a residential beds analysis of the different census tracts, and I'd like that to be done immediately. And I'd also like there to be a parking study done, because there's going to be 1,000 units, nothing there. And just to tell you, the supermarket is 8,500 square feet by Kingsborough West. You got another supermarket that's going to happen at Kingsbrook Jewish. That's 20,000 square feet. And then the third supermarket that's coming to the district is on the other side on Nostrand. That's 20,000.
Okay, thank you. Kareem, are you ready?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you for joining us this evening.
Of course, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We thought that this would be a good opportunity for you to discuss with us the kinds of programs that you have in Breaking Ground, and to expound on the explanation of the City FEPS program in particular, since you asked if we knew someone or people who held those vouchers. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Kareem Martin. I'm actually one of the assistant program directors at Breaking Ground. So just a little background on what we do. So we work with disenfranchised individuals within the community through partnership. So these partnerships are grant-funded programs that we work in conjunction with throughout the city, preferably Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. So we work in partnership with different sponsors. For example, Starbucks, we have a contract with them. Macy's, we have a contract with them. And other neighboring vendors throughout our different sectors. Now, the main purpose of our organization is to slowly but surely eradicate street homelessness. So we have outreach specialists that go out in the community and engage individuals who appear to be experiencing homelessness. And we offer them services that range from personal hygiene and care products to offering them beds at our Sea Farmers location, offering them social services as well, having them assigned to a case manager and a housing specialist, and just starting the process and getting the ball rolling on transitioning them from street homelessness into permanent housing. Also equipping them with certain quality of life skills as well. Are there any questions?
So, does anyone have any questions of Kareem so far? Where do you find the individuals who fit this criteria? Do you take, say for instance, we have someone who's homeless on our street or in our area, we can call you and you will come and pick them up and evaluate them?
Yes, so that's actually exactly how it works. You were spot on. So our partners will send us what's called a ticket. So they'll send a ticket through our portal database, and the ticket will be along the lines of, hey, there's this individual, he's hanging out in front of the storefront. Could you come and offer him or her some services?
Can you give us a link or your phone number? I'd like.
Oh, of course.
Can you post
I
it?
can forward you guys.
This is being recorded in live stream, FYI, if you want to connect with the office and we could provide that information.
Yeah, put it in the chat's not on.
So Kareem, if you could please just reach out to Dante and we can connect.
Dante
Oh,
never.
sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Dante doesn't get back to me. Can you say it?
Sure.
Can you give me the email?
Yep. So it's Breaking Ground. It's breakingground.org. www.breakingground.org.
So if I go to this website, I'm going to be able to plug in like somebody's location and you'll go there.
Yes.
But when you ask us about, let me ask you the question this way. But would those individuals coming off the street have a City FEPS voucher?
Not necessarily. In some instances, some of our guys are equipped with vouchers, but those who don't, again, we offer them social services to help them get started on the process.
Can you describe to those of us in the room the program of City FEPS? And there is a City FEPS and there's another one that ends in FEPS. There are two of them. Can you describe those programs, and do you have both of them in your facility?
So we don't issue out any vouchers. We work in conjunction with DHS, HPD, and all the other city agencies. but we don't issue the voucher itself.
But you accept the voucher and you're familiar with the program, yes?
Yes, so I'm very familiar with how CityFabs works, but
Okay,
we
could
don't
you
exactly
describe that?
issue the voucher itself.
Right, I understand
Mhm.
that. I understand that. That's a DHS program, but people walking around with CityFabs, they can go to you or apply to you. And can you describe the CityFabs program to the room, please?
Sure. So the CityFabs program is a rent supplement for families with children who receive cash assistance and have been evicted or are facing eviction, and they've lost their housing. Maybe it could be a DV situation, or they're in rent arrears. Rent arrears meaning they owe rent. So they've lost housing maybe because of health or safety issues. So the program doesn't specifically deal with DV. It does service a wide pool of individuals, but it's pretty much for individuals who are currently on public housing who are seeking housing services.
Could you tell us what is it DB you're saying? DB means?
Domestic violence.
Oh, DV. Okay.
Yes.
FYI,
So
Beverly, Teresa, and Jay have their hand up.
okay, thank you. So is that the population that you're looking for?
Not necessarily. We deal with all comers. So single males, single females, couples with children, anyone experiencing street homelessness within the sectors that we service are eligible for our program.
Okay. Teresa?
Let Jay go first. I'm still
Yeah,
formulating.
Jay had his hand up first, then Teresa.
Okay. Jay?
Thank you.
Jay?
Hi. First, Kareem, did you say, I forget what you said your email address was, like a contact for you? I think Tara asked the question, how do we contact you to, if there's people on the street or something? Do you have a business contact or an email address?
Sure. So my email address is KA Martin, MARTIN @breakingground.org.
Great. Okay, thanks for
and
that.
Also my housing specialist who's going to be working more closely with you guys, her email is Stephanie, so STEPHENY MUNOZ @gmail.com.
Great. So thank you. So my question is, in terms of a population who comes in, what sort of screening do you guys do? Like, do you guys do any criminal background checks, in terms of who would be in the facility, or are there criminal background checks?
No, so no criminal background checks. So we do conduct a general psych evaluation, which is done by our outreach specialist and our residential psychiatrist.
Okay, gotcha. So, because that was, part of my concern is, what happens if you have somebody who is like a subway pusher, or somebody who's like a 6 or 7 time rapist? Are you going to let that person in who just pushed somebody over the into the subway, and then they're going to go to Kings County Psychiatric because there's an involuntary place where they put individuals who need help there. So there's a question as to how do you make sure that the person is in the right state of mind, and in terms of, are there criminal background checks, etc. So there are none. The other thing that I wanted to know is on your facility down the block, you guys have a policy that says that there's no curfew, I believe at 10 o'clock. And the facility that you guys are going to take over at 681 Clarkson, previously they had like a curfew at I think 10 o'clock where you have to be in. Or do you know if that your new facility at Clarkson Avenue do you know if that also is going to have no curfew, or which is a change from the existing policy?
So we're not entirely too sure as of the moment. We're still having discussions on what that's going to look like, but we don't have a finite answer to give at this moment.
On the topic of curfew, is that right?
Yes, yes, just regarding
Gotcha.
curfew.
And just to piggyback, if I can, our chair, Beverly, came up with a great suggestion at one of the meetings about when there was like a new bus schedule coming out. The chair, Beverly said, why not put out some signs on the buses so that, you could let people know what this new bus schedule is going to be, because people find out at the last moment. Did Breaking Ground put out any signs about their new facilities that's going to be on Clarkson Avenue and Albany? Are there any public signs out, anything posted for the public to see?
No. So to answer the question, no, but all of this information is accessible through our website. So any new buildings, any new partnerships within the community that we are working on,
Right.
it can be accessed through our website.
Right. So I just want to echo just Beverly's fantastic comment that maybe there can be posted things physically outside, because there's a digital divide. A lot of low-income people may not have the internet. A lot of older people may not use it. The internet's a pretty big place, some signs outside saying what's coming, how many units, the size of the building, because I think it's going to be around 15 stories. I think it's important to inform the public so people could be empowered to know what's going on, and not, so I would just ask if you could put some big posted signs out, because it's $430 million is the cost of this whole project. And I know Breaking Ground is sharing it between Douglaston Development. Breaking Ground has the social services aspect, right? So and Douglaston Development is doing the affordable housing part. But still, since Breaking Ground has like so many units, maybe they could post some signs outside so the community can be informed about what's going on, and give some more input. That'd be a good idea.
So Kareem,
that'd be a great idea, actually. Yes.
So Kareem, I'd like to ask you something. You remember when Community Board 9 supported you guys in facilitating a walkthrough from your current site to your planned site?
Yes.
Were you part of that?
I was not. So I was recently brought on board.
Oh, you're new. Okay, sorry.
I'm only 2 weeks old. I'm sorry, 2 months old with the organization.
2 weeks old? Oh my goodness.
With all due respect, Kareem, for you to be presenting here, and I don't mean this in a bad way, for you to be presenting here, how does that work when questions are going to be asked about the project, about the program? Are you being transferred from a different part of Breaking Ground?
Yes. So I've worked with Breaking Ground for a few years now, but I'm fairly new to this sector. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you're not new to Breaking Ground, just this area. So what the partnership did in that, when they originally presented in front of the community board, the partnership was that because a lot of people were uncomfortable with the social services component of the housing development, so that helping people to become more familiar with you as an entity, Breaking Ground in particular, and for Breaking Ground to be able to present their vision walking from the original site, indicative of how they currently run a facility, and walk into the new site, so the community could also discuss with the representative at Breaking Ground at the time what their fears were, what the current facility is doing, and what their fears are of you guys. So, but I understand that not many people showed up. I'm leading up to, has there been an increase in questions since then, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, got it. Okay, Teresa. Thank you, Kareem. Teresa?
Okay, so just to catch you up, Kareem, there was a housing meeting several months ago where many people came to it. I would say more than 100. It was very surprising, and this was their main concern was in the southern Crown Heights, where this development and where Breaking Ground is working, about there being like too high of a concentration of individuals with that would be like that are on the street. There's a lot of shelters or whatever in that one area, and there's, I guess, a lot of mothers, families, people with children showed up, and they were very concerned about what the current situation and what having more of folks in in that area, what would happen. They were having drug use, harassment, people exposing themselves. I have an area like that near where I live, and it's alarming, and it's not nearly as many as what's coming there. And it's my understanding that if you have women and children in a shelter, like domestic violence, like you said, that is supposed to be like a distance between that and, say, an all men's shelter. I'm really not sure about that, but I think people are expressing concerns for their safety, like on the street, going to school, just going about their day. So there just needs to be some really clear, like, how is that going to be? How does security work? What's going to happen? How can they feel safe? Because it didn't sound like people were feeling safe from that meeting. And currently, with the number of shelters in one area, and it's different, not just Breaking Ground. From what I understood, it was numerous, all in one area, and that doesn't seem right to me. So how are you going to make sure those families are feeling, and individuals in that area, elderly people, are going to feel safe? What can they do?
That's a fair
I think
question.
there was also a question of, there was a lack of services for these people. Like, they're just like not given like the like medication, psychiatric help, therapist, food, resources that they need. And that's what seemed to be happening. They were just like a lot of people stuck into one area and then roaming around all day.
Kareem, you have a response?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we at Breaking Ground, we do understand these areas of concern. So with the demographic that we do service, right, there is a question with residents in terms of security and livelihood. What we do, we work in concert with NYPD. So what we've seen is that when there's increased police presence in these areas, it kind of increases the how would I say? It increases the confidence in the security of the community. So those areas that you're mentioning.
Teresa, please allow him to finish.
Well,
please allow him to finish. Go ahead, Kareem.
NYPD.
Yeah, so in these areas, what we've noticed is that with increased police presence, it does dwindle down the numbers of stragglers. So people just panhandling out in the open, exposing themselves, harassing the residents. We do work in concert with NYPD to prevent these instances from happening. So what I would encourage residents to do is, if you should happen to see these individuals, just simply phone 911, express your concerns. 9 times out of 10, we do have outreach specialists to address these concerns, because we are kind of like first line defense with this demographic, and of course 911.
I don't think people.
Teresa, hold on for a second, because we have at least 5 other people in the room. Hold on, Teresa, hold on. Is there anyone else before? Is there anyone else before Teresa revisits her question? Is there anyone else in the room who hasn't asked a question currently, who have concerns as well, or questions about City Phelps or the programs that Breaking Ground offers? Is there anyone else in the room who has questions? Okay, Teresa?
Yeah, I just think that from what people said and what I know, that people don't want to call NYPD and don't want them involved because people end up, bad things happen. Like resources shouldn't be NYPD. Resources should be social workers, people from Breaking Ground that are working with people to make sure they're getting the services they need, making sure they have like a job to go to, something to do, crafts, whatever it might be, not calling NYPD for every little problem.
Okay.
And 911, it's a waste. It's a waste. And
Okay.
people shot. And nobody
Okay.
wants to call the police. 911
Okay, Teresa.
every time some little thing happens. And it doesn't work, by the way. It doesn't work.
Okay.
So
So
people need resources, and that's what we're looking for. You know, that's what people want.
okay. So thank you for that, Teresa. Miss Janice, you have a question?
Oh, I was on mute. Good evening, everyone. I
Good
have a
evening.
question. Thank you for showing up, Kareem, and sharing information with us. I have a question about Breaking Ground. I know that you help people to get transitional as well as permanent home housing. Is that correct?
Yes,
Hello?
that's correct.
And that you have places established throughout New York City and I think Connecticut. I was just briefly looking at the website. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So the places in Brooklyn and Queens, have you had problems in terms of crime and everything that everyone's that's being mentioned here? What's the history of those other sites? Because crime is everywhere. I want to be clear. And yes, we can call 911 and people need more help social service wise and things like that. But what has been the history of other sites where Breaking Ground is located? Have you had increase in criminal activity and the crime rates and everything?
No. So if we look at just strictly by the numbers, most of the crimes being committed are not by the individuals that we service. So most of our individuals are just some, not all, are mentally disenfranchised or just experiencing homelessness.
Right.
They're not looking to harm anyone. They're not looking to steal or kill or rob. They're just simply homeless. And that's where we come in. We offer services. We offer them an alternative. Now, the only reason I made mention of the NYPD is because at best, the only thing we can do as an organization is offer the services. So we can't force anything on anyone. So we can very well offer these individual services. And if they should decide that they want to return back to that particular area, there's nothing that we as an organization can do.
Okay. If
that answers the question.
Yes, it did. It did. Thank you.
So Ms. Janice, you're asking, may I ask that question is to see if they increase crime in areas that they are?
Yeah, because, one of the things that I think needs to clearly be understood is that crime is everywhere, again, as I mentioned, and that people who are going through mental breakdowns, they need help, they need housing. So there is no one area that they should all be placed in. And I'm not quite sure if, the areas in which they're placed in, if it's fairly or equitably distributed. I think that they're not, but I guess the DCP report would have to show that. It would be nice to have a DCP rep to come to one of our housing meetings and share information on this in terms of, I think Jay had mentioned the number of beds, the number of parking, and yes, parking is crazy throughout the entire city. So I'm just not really clear on, like, it's almost as though if there's any housing temporarily or permanently, that that people are going to commit crimes. And I'm like, they need a house. They have mental issues. They need help. So how is all of that being lumped in as a criminal? I don't understand that.
Miss Janice, where did you hear the criminal part?
I'm hearing that, oh, they're going to attack our children and they're going to, it's going to be very, I mean, there's crime everywhere, depending, regardless of what neighborhood you live in. But I think it seems like the people who are going, who need the temporary housing, who need the permanent housing, I think it's great that Breaking Ground is offering that as well as the support services in place. I think that's a great idea. Maybe I'm alone.
Kareem,
I don't know.
No. Like most things, when first of all, let me ask you this, Kareem. So the individuals that we call you about who are homeless, they can come to your place and stay there for 2 days, get a shower, get a couple meals, and then they can return to the street. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly.
Right, because you can't keep people against their will. That's right. That's right. Okay.
Exactly. And
right,
with our facilities, the individuals are at liberty to come and go whenever they please. So it's not a conventional shelter to where when you sign in for your bed at 10 p.m., you have to physically stay in the shelter until 6 or 7 a.m. These guys are at liberty to leave.
Right. So if you sign me in at 10, I can wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and leave.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. You hear that, Miss Janice?
Still intact.
You hear that, Miss Janice?
Okay, so how is that different from, because in my neighborhood there are housing facilities for people. Now, whether they leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, I have no idea.
No. That was just an example. That was just an example.
So if it was a homeless shelter, they couldn't leave at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just a little bit perplexed about, because I thought that Breaking Ground would offer options for homeless to get actual apartments temporarily or permanently, and offer vouchers so that, and services so that they can get this. I didn't think it was just you go there and spend a day or two and then you come out and that's it. I thought it was more.
Okay.
Can you explain that, please, Kareem?
Sure.
I have that question too. Thank you.
Sure. So we do offer these services. However, it is a process. So, for instance, we meet John Doe on Monday, offer him services, and then find him housing by the middle of the week. So that's not realistic. So the journey begins, of course, at initial contact. So we gather general information, we do a general psych evaluation, and the process begins from there. Now, again, the guys are at liberty to accept or decline our services. So we have instances where individuals have been housed. Through us, we've helped them secure vouchers and they've got permanent housing. A few months down the line, or even a year down the line, they're right back at square one. So recidivism with this demographic is high. I'll be completely transparent with you. But of course, we work with them throughout the process to ensure that we're gearing them with quality of life skills to keep these apartments, to pay their rent, to prevent these instances from happening.
But you're saying guys. I thought it was families we were looking for with City Fest.
No, I'm sorry. So when I say guys, it's more of a blanket statement. Guys as
okay, got it. Gender neutral. Yes, got it. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jay?
I was curious, how many, I know we have a good amount of people here. Who in the room, is anybody from like, I don't reside in the southeast part of the district. I don't reside in the district. I'm part of a shul there, a temple there, and I know a lot of people there, and I'm active in the Jewish community, but I don't reside there. Is there anybody in the room who lives close to where these facilities are, close to Clarkson Avenue, who has experiences? Like, does anybody live in the southeast part of Community Board 9 who's here? I don't know, Janice, you've spoken, and I don't know if you live, do you live near? If anybody has.
I'm in
But you asked
Community
the
Board
question,
9.
Jay.
I'm in Community Board 9, Jay, and there are transitional housing all around me. Okay, there's
Exactly.
homelessness everywhere. There's no
Yes.
one place. This is something that it's borough, citywide, it's nationwide. Homelessness
Yes.
is everywhere. I just finished looking at the report on San Francisco, one of my favorite cities, and what's going on there. This is nationwide. So
California
I
has
think
one of the highest homeless
Right.
numbers in the country.
Right.
But
that's
Jay, you're
correct.
asking that
Yes.
question for what purpose?
Because the
You've
feedback.
asked the question and no one's answering, so that
Oh.
means you move on.
Well, let me explain what I meant from it, since to answer your question. At the past two housing meetings, there were people who resided close by, and there was a tremendous amount of people who said that there were problems, that they were harassed by individuals from these facilities, and that kids were smacked, and that there was physical assaults and other things, and that the women were harassed. So that's why I wanted to know, is there anybody who is in favor of it, who maybe lives close by? And I wanted to disagree with the assumption that that everything is, rosy and everything is nice, because people said we have problems. And I'll give you two examples.
But
There is a block association that I got in contact with in right around by Clarkson, and they were against the original shelter. You guys have a shelter at 781 Clarkson Avenue in addition to the one you're going to build. And the block association who lived close by it, and block association was predominantly, the demographic was predominantly African American, and they said, we are against this. We're against the oversaturation. They expose themselves. They do different things, and there's a harassment issue of people who are. So I want to know if there were people from close by this specific project who could talk to their experiences.
And no one responded positively. But in all fairness, everyone in the room, Kareem represents Breaking Ground. The current operator is Salvation Army. They will not be the operator once the renovation occurs, or they will not be partners. I'm correct. They're not going to be a partner, right, Kareem?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So that means that when we're speaking with Kareem, we speak in regards to our concerns regarding their operation, regarding how they do things. Ms. Janice's comments were relative to an appreciation that people who are in the street will have the possibility of getting housing, because she feels that housing is a solution to some of the mental health issues that we're looking at.
Yes.
So no. Is this social service program all rosy? Probably not. No one is. But is it all terrible? Terrible is the only word I could think of that can be publicly spoken. But no, it's not that either. So it depends on the perspective. It depends on the approach of everyone. Because even in the room, there are, as you know, we've had people to speak, but we also had just as many people who are just absorbing the information. And I like to think that these individuals who are absorbing the information, they're thinking it through. And when this meeting closes down, they're going to be doing research of their own. And that's why I'm asking Kareem to present as much information as he can about what Breaking Ground offers, how they're offering it. And I appreciate his transparency when he said, we can pick up a homeless person today, and tomorrow they can choose to leave the facility. Not many people know that, but it is a fact, not just for his facility, it's for all facilities. But there are, what is the difference, Kareem, what is the difference in Breaking Ground and the homeless shelter on the corner of Atlantic and Rogers?
So unlike a lot of
Outside of the
shelters and
demographic. Outside of the demographic, yes.
okay. So outside of the demographic,
because you see those guys in the street all the time. They can only go in at a certain time. And what's the difference in those facilities and yours that can leave when they get ready? Can they go in when they get ready?
So they have to be there to sign in for the bed, but again, they can leave at any given moment.
Okay.
So to properly answer the question, every organization offers different services. Specifically with Breaking Ground, we are essentially the middleman. So there's permanent and transitional housing, and there's street homelessness. We are literally the guys in the middle trying to connect them to services that they may not be aware they qualify for.
Okay. So you heard Ms. Janice's comment about the appreciation of those individuals who can sustain that lifestyle of being in an apartment, following the rules, being able to transition for as long as they can, whether it's a couple months or a year or so. Her vision of that, would you say that's close to what you're trying to do, or no?
I would say that's a fair estimate. So what we try, so I do want to say this. One thing we work towards is equipping the individuals with quality of life skills to prevent recidivism. That is probably the single most important thing that we offer as an organization. How do we equip these guys and prepare them for paying bills, having a job, maintaining a job, savings? So we do connect them to like financial literacy courses. So we kind of address their needs through a holistic lens. It's not enough just to satisfy the homelessness. We have to make sure that they can maintain life after being homeless. So.
Okay. Does anybody else? Because it seems like the question that Ms. Janice asked is more to the point of what we're asking, but it's important that when we're looking at social services, that we look at, there are many facets of the government that provide social service housing to individuals that need it. And each one of them operate on their own rules. So when we have communities that are oversaturated, it's due to the fact that each one of the things that all of the social services look for is access to transportation. Two fare zones are not attractive. They look for access to food, for those individuals to be able to get to their apartments. Is that what you guys look for, Kareem? And are you a city or a state agency?
So Breaking Ground is a city agency, as we are funded through city organizations.
Got it. And do you look at those things when you decide where you're going to go?
Yeah. So we work based on the contracts of the funders. So we try not to operate outside of that.
Funders being the city.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And the typical contract looks like what, Kareem?
So they come in from different sponsors. So perfect example, our contract with Starbucks. So Starbucks was experiencing a lot of stragglers inside of their franchises. So they came to us and said, listen, can you guys come in, offer them services, and in a nutshell, just get them out of our stores because they're making customers uncomfortable. It's, and we're losing money because customers are afraid to kind of walk past homeless people while they're trying to purchase a latte. So they came to us and they said, can you offer them services and essentially remove them from in front of our stores? And this is what we've done, and this is what we're continuing to do with Starbucks. That's just an example.
Okay. And this is across the country?
Well, it's across the state, more specifically the city of New York. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that answers Ms. Janice's question about what you guys really do. And it is provide services and housing for those who can sustain that level of quality of life.
Yes.
Noli, do you have a question? And Barnabas, do you have a question? Because you've heard a lot tonight, so.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking.
What is your opinion of it? I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm sorry, my microphone is not very good. I'm just taking it all in, and I really appreciate you coming here and telling us about this program, but this is the first time I'm hearing about it, so
okay, no problem.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Noli?
This is also my first meeting, so I'm just listening in and just listening to what you guys talk about. So I'm also just taking it in. I don't really have an opinion at the moment.
Do you have any questions?
I don't have any question. I guess I didn't realize that we had so many shelters in the area.
Yeah.
Homes in the area. So it's like the first time that I'm hearing of it. I know that there's the Armory that's on Atlantic Avenue and Bedford Avenue, I believe. I didn't realize that there were others that were closer.
Well, yeah, because some of them we pass every day. They are houses, but they're social service. They're run by the city or the state or private industry like Breaking Ground, and they offer social support to individuals that live there. But to us, they look like regular apartment buildings or regular 2-story walk-ups. But when you go through those doors, they are social service. There are quite a few of them. And that's where the term being overly saturated comes from. That's where people are trying to identify what is the limit, because there are some communities that they'll be getting their first homeless shelter in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And there are other communities that have an abundance of them now. So, and that's been a big argument. What is the sweet spot? When you get there, you don't get any more. And no one is answering that question. The city's not answering, the state's not answering. No one's answering that question. They'll tell us, and a few years ago, when they were really coming into the community, they told us, well, you're a community that have the things that we're looking for. And it was all the things I stated earlier. And the question was asked by the community board, what can we do for you? Because there are other communities that have these assets. What can we do to redirect you there? Because the complaint from the community board was some of these social service homes, people were standing outside and they were whistling at the students as they came from the school because they no longer do the parameters from the school. There used to be, you had to be a certain distance from the school. You had to be a certain distance from daycare. There were all these things, just like liquor licenses. But just like liquor licenses, those restrictions have gone by the wayside. So the complaint was some of these guys, or this house was in particular, board members were complaining that some of the individuals inside of the home were standing outside when school was over, and they were soliciting the young kids that went past. So I don't have to tell you that board meeting was really long, and
Yeah.
that guy doing the presentation had a really hard time. So yeah, there are quite a few, and some of them we don't even know about. Even in apartment buildings, there are apartments that are occupied by individuals that are part of a social service program.
Mhm.
So
I mean, I don't know
yeah,
exactly where they are, and I don't know how close in proximity they are to me. So I guess I would say that the fact that I didn't realize that there were so many kind of speaks to, like, I know some people have safety concerns, and I'm not gonna make it a, you know, a focus group of one. Just because it didn't happen to me doesn't mean it doesn't happen to others. I didn't even
right.
notice they were there. So I know Janice expressed like her sentiment about like they have to be housed, like they have to be housed, and I guess I also share that sentiment. But I
Yeah.
also understand our neighbors' concerns as well. And like I said, I haven't had anything happen to me. I didn't even really realize we had so many in the area. So I haven't any. So I say that to say that I haven't really seen any tractions or changes. So I guess that's my opinion. There is a need.
Okay.
People have to be housed somewhere. Housing is getting very expensive for everyone, all income levels. So, I mean, it's something that has to be done. And I guess that's my opinion on that.
And thank you for that. Miss Janet?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was taking off my, unmuting. You know what the real problem is, I think, it's multifaceted. But the real problem is that there really is no equitable distribution of homeless shelters. And
Sure.
that the parameters around which these shelters are built, like you said, oh, got to be next to a transportation hub. And yes, as you mentioned, I know some transportation hubs in part of Brooklyn alone that have no homeless shelters.
Yeah.
So I think that it would behoove us to not realize this and to really kind of turn our eyes to DCP and find out exactly, have a conversation about the placement of all the homeless shelters, not about NIMBY, not in my backyard, but simply to see where all of these homeless shelters are allocated. And as I said, there's transitional housing in my own neighborhood. If the neighbors, we see anything, we call the police, but it's been no problem that I've seen. But I mean, I see problems everywhere, on the train, everywhere. Every community has problems, but there is and has been an inequitable distribution of homeless shelters throughout the city. I can go to the state, I can go to the country, everywhere. There's some places they need to have homeless shelters. They need shelters for people, but it doesn't happen. I mean, I can even think Westchester County. I could say Nassau County. I can name parts of Brooklyn. I can go on and on. But
Right.
the inequitable distribution and placement of the shelters. But I just don't want it to look like everyone in the homeless shelter is a criminal. A lot of the people, they have mental illness. And if Breaking Ground is offering the facilities to help support, because I don't know if the Armory does that. I don't know if the Armory provides that same support system.
No, you mean the Armory on Atlantic and Rogers?
On Atlantic and Rogers, yeah.
Now that you say that, I've asked multiple times, and it seems like no one I've spoken to is really certain what it offers. And maybe that is a question we as a housing committee need to go back and ask, because that is a really big facility. So FYI, the transitional housing that exists on Rogers and Crown, that is a family transitional shelter. It has families mixed with apartments. So these individuals they're pretty much mainstream. They're not a total homeless shelter or a total transitional house. So that is one of the new models they told us. Now that's been there for, I want to say 6 years, maybe 6 years. Yeah, maybe 6, but it's been there for quite a while. And like you said, they're when they first came, there were some issues. but as they've existed in the community, and they have a community advisory board, and they meet with them once a month, and they discuss some of the matters that they've seen or have experienced. They have partnership with a couple of the churches in the community who support the families. And it's not like what we're discussing at Breaking Ground. It's not like that. So like you said before, or someone else said in the room earlier, not all social service facilities are the same. And even Ms. Noli said she didn't realize there were so many, and she don't know what's near her. And that speaks to, if there are some near her, that speaks to what is not going on. Again, it goes back to, they're not all bad, they're not all good. It goes back to that. Okay, Teresa? Thank you, Ms. Janice. Teresa?
Yeah, I think Kareem and everybody in the meeting should, who hasn't seen it yet, should go to the housing meeting that that large group of people from the area we're discussing came to the meeting to hear what they had to say, because I think that's a very important listen if you want to hear what those residents have to say. They're all there talking about their issues. So please, it's on YouTube. I believe it was the January housing meeting. I'd post the link, but there's nowhere to post it. So please, Kareem, can you especially go look at that so you know what people's issues were? And the other thing is when they did that walkthrough, maybe you should do another walkthrough with people, because the walkthrough, although I heard it was underattended, it was canceled originally and rescheduled because there was this big storm that came through. So, and then it was rescheduled and happened without a lot of notification. So it would make sense that it was underattended. So if you could reschedule a walkthrough, and please look at that YouTube video. Thank you.
Jay?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, if anybody wants to see the video that Tara mentioned, it's also on my website, eastflatbush.info. I have that video, and I also have the video that took place with Letitia James in 2017, where there was around 130 people when they were opening up a new shelter on Rogers Avenue. And it was a very strong response by the local community. And it was very different, and people had the same problems. I was curious about, my question to Kareem would be, I know right now there's around there was in 2018 at the shelters, there was 16 or 17 sex offenders. And, the concern is there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood, a lot of children. And I wanted to know if there's any, my question would be if there's going to be any restriction on sex offenders, because my understanding in terms of different articles was that there's currently maybe 17 sex offenders at the two shelters. And there was an incident that happened actually a month ago in which a crossing guard got an award because she saw two little kids who came from the schools. And there was a guy who was talking to the kids and trying to buy them candy, and it didn't seem right. And the crossing guard sort of took the two little kids, brought them back to the school, and she was given an award. So, there's some concern about the kids in the schools there and the oversaturation. And just to give you guys an idea about the numbers, there's 364 beds right now on two shelters at 681 Clarkson, 364 residential beds. There's going to be an additional supportive housing services that's going to bring around approximately 400 more residential beds for social services. The target population includes the homeless. So that's 710 on 681 Clarkson, 710. You go across the street to Canba, and there's approximately almost 320, okay, which is seriously mentally ill with a drug disability. Of course, you need to help everybody, but the question is that, what happens if people are off their meds? Is there a risk that's involved? If you have 1,000 individuals who have important health needs, is this too much of a risk in terms of one block? And that doesn't include the current Breaking Ground shelter that's 110 beds. And to just go to the question, somebody said, well, Breaking Ground is a different facility. Breaking Ground opened up a facility at 781 Clarkson with 110 beds. The neighbor said things have gotten worse. So I'm disappointed in the future. Just to end it, when we do a meeting, you got to give it like 2 weeks notice so that the community can be invited. There's no notice. You give 2 weeks and then people are informed, and you have to put out some signs. The community is in the dark, and this is going to completely displace, when these shelters are up, no one's spending $800,000-$900,000 to live where there's no parking and there's an oversaturation of social services and homeless.
Kareem, can you expound on the medical aspect of Breaking Ground, please?
The sex offenders.
Okay,
sex offenders. How many sex offenders are coming in? Is it restricted? Is it not restricted?
So it is restricted. So the specific question is with the sex offenders, correct?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, again, we don't run background checks. However, a lot of organizations that we work with, they do run background checks. So sex offenders, I'm not entirely too sure, and I don't want to mislead you with wrong information. I'm not exactly sure how that process would work, but I would imagine that they would not allow registered sex offenders around any school zones.
They're there now. The two shelters have sex offenders which are listed there. 681 Clarkson, you do a Google search.
So Kareem, when you say you guys don't run background checks, but a lot of your partners or funders do, what does that look like? When you say you don't, but they do, that means when an individual comes in, their name is put where? And say Starbucks or the city or Burger King or whoever, they run the background check?
Yeah, so in a lot of cases, our funders do run background checks. For instance, we also have a partnership with Bank of America. And with them, we have very limited access to a lot of the locations. Why? Because it's a bank. We have office space in one of their locations. So they even run background checks on employees as well. So I and a couple of other staff were subject to these background checks as well.
So they run background checks.
So we don't control that.
On yourselves and the individuals that you identify who are homeless.
Yes, we don't control that aspect.
Right, I get it. Okay. Mm. All right. So expound on the distribution of the meds and the oversight of individuals, because that was part 2 of that question. Describe that for us, please. What does that look like? I come in, well, like you said, Jane Doe comes in to the facility, he or she, they need medical support, psychotherapy drugs. So who oversees that? Of course, it's in line with their residency as well. If they don't want to take the drug, you can't force them. But how does that work? Can you describe that to us, please?
So again, a lot of our consumers are at liberty to refuse services. Right. So we offer them help, but if they tell us no, then they have that right and ability to say no, and there's nothing we can do outside of that.
But they can still stay there if they refuse the services that you offer. They can still occupy a bed.
Yes, because that aspect is not one of the contingencies to stay and remain in shelter.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Are there any additional questions? Because I'm finding the questions now, your partners seem to be, it's interesting, Breaking Ground's partners, the liberties they have that you don't engage in. And this is just an observation. I'm not, this is just an observation. That's what it is. And I think that's important for people to know, really.
Yeah, and I would say, and a lot of the concerns that the committee has are the same concerns echoed by our funders. So you can
Yes,
imagine these are multi-million, if not billion-dollar industries. We're talking Macy's, we're
exactly.
talking Starbucks, we're talking
You're
large
talking Bank of
organizations,
America. Yes, you are. On the
right?
stock
And
exchange.
and right. And so when individuals are stationed in front of their businesses, they lose revenue. I'm not going to want to go to a Starbucks where there's 10
Right.
homeless guys blocking the entrance.
Like the Dunkin' Donut, when the guy's opening the door for me and he's asking me to pay him money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
So they have the same issues of concern that residents have. There's the social service offices that are setting up shop in the communities, and with that comes a demographic that makes us all unsettled and uncomfortable. And I do want to let you guys know, the people who fund us, they have the same issues of concern. That's why we're in business.
But I do have
eliminate
a
this
question.
problem.
But I do have a question. How is it that Breaking Ground is the social service entity, but the non-social service entities are able to do the background checks and Breaking Ground does not?
Well, because we're contracted by the funders. So, for instance, we work.
I understand that
Go
part,
ahead.
but you understand what I'm asking? Without
So
the
your question is
funders,
what?
the individuals,
Mhm.
without the funders, without Starbucks, without Bank of America, without the funders, there would be no background check if it was just Breaking Ground.
That's correct.
How is that? How is that?
So,
is it against human services policy or right, or how is that?
I'll be completely honest. I
Please.
oversee the housing affairs. So
Okay, got it.
these are great technical questions that honestly I'm gonna have the quality assurance representative attend the next meeting if that's okay. Because
Yeah,
he has
no,
more of
that
a
would be
thorough
fine.
knowledge. Okay.
Because I think that the stuff we discovered tonight, Salvation, like I said, Salvation Army is the entity that runs the facility now, as you know, right? Your partners, for lack of a better term, your sponsors, your funders, as you call them, are the ones that are meeting the demands that the community want to see met. But because you are a human services organization, that's not what you're doing. That's not what you're doing, but it is being done via you. And I think that's something the community really needs to know. And I think they would view you differently.
I agree.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Because no one, and until you said it tonight, it never crossed my mind that a Starbucks or a Bank of America or any of those guys would be funding a human services environment because of the guy that opens the door and wants my money, or the guy that roams through the environment asking me to give him $2. It never crossed my mind. I assume they call the police department, have the person removed, and that's it. I didn't know they had taken very serious actions on how to alleviate that issue. And I think the community needs to know that you're one of those entities that is supporting them in those efforts.
Yep. So again, these are multi-million-dollar organizations, and they look at the metrics. If these individuals continue to populate our businesses, we're going to lose money. And if you end up calling the police, now people are going to be in fear of their own safety. There's homeless people, there's police. I no longer feel comfortable going here. I'm now going to go to the competition. These businesses don't want to lose money. That's where we come.
Or in states where we drive, I'm gonna go through the drive-through. I'm not gonna go inside the dining area.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it. If you can get your colleague to come and speak about the metrics that we're discussing here tonight with that part of it, it will be extremely helpful. Does anybody else before we go, because it's now 8:44, that has given us more time for my tardiness as well. So if no one else has any additional questions.
Last question.
I actually have a question for Kareem.
Go ahead.
Ms. Noli?
I'll wait. I'll wait.
No, Ms. Noli, please go first.
I guess Kareem, like you're working directly with the homeless population, like you're placing them, so you're acting as the social worker of the population. So I don't understand why you wouldn't be the one who's doing the background check. And it's the companies, if I understand clear, is doing the background check. That seems like
their funders is doing the background check.
Yeah, that seems kind of odd to me. I mean, they're funding you, they're employing you to kind of act as a social worker to this population. So why wouldn't you be doing the background check, since you do work more closely with the population than the funders would be working with them?
Are those the metrics you said your colleague can explain to us?
Yeah, but just to, I guess I can provide some insight.
Thank you.
We don't run stringent background checks. Our major concern is, what are the immediate needs of the consumer, and how can we connect them to services? The more technical aspect of it is running background checks to see if these individuals have criminal history, sex offenders, the whole nine. Again, we want to get these individuals off the street and into shelters, subsequently leading to transitional and permanent housing. So I guess it is a fair question. I'm not entirely too sure, to be honest, because at the end of the day, I just follow the rules. I'm not the one who, I'm not the architect behind these rules. So I just do what I'm told and try to execute the job to the best of my ability.
And everyone in the room understands that and appreciate that. But we also appreciate your volunteer and your colleague to come and explain that component to us, because it would seem like that breaking ground would be the individuals, and this is us speaking from a traditional perspective. Usually the person who's doing the action is the person who's engaging in all the other paperwork. It's not typical that the person engaging in the action is not the person who's concerned about the safety or about what I've done in my past. So that's not typical. And I think some of us in the room are curious as to why that dynamic is like that. I know running background checks is expensive. I know that maybe that is part of it too. But we'd like to hear it from your colleague. If you can get them to come, we truly appreciate it.
Sure, of course. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Jay.
And I just wanted to, if you go on Breaking Ground's website, as Kareem mentioned, there's a lot of very real estate guys, hedge fund guys from different major corporations who want to get together and do something about the problem. I think there's also probably a low income tax, a financial aspect of it as well, where you give money and there's a financial aspect of it. But what concerns me is that a lot of individuals who may make a lot of money, and they're the heads of different companies and everything like that, I would like to see them live at the complex on Clarkson Avenue, because then they could experience what life is like there. And if there's too many problems and everything like that, because more often than not, the guys from Bank of America, they don't live on Clarkson Avenue, the hedge fund guys. And maybe they want to basically put the problems in one part of town so that they don't have to deal with it. And that's the oversaturation issue, is that your area has it, and the people who are volunteering other people, all those rich guys and everything like that, who are with the shovels and everything like that, they don't live close to the neighborhood. That's why it's so important to have people from the neighborhood who can comment on it. But Beverly, I applaud you in terms of saying about the issue of the background checks, because what's going to happen is with all these these different mental health episodes that happen in the city, there was like a record amount. Are they going to basically take the individuals, take them to a hospital, take them to maybe, Kings County Hospital Center or someplace else? And if the people don't have a place to stay, are they going to concentrate them in one area? And that's the concern of the neighborhood, and whether families are not going to move in, and whether you're going to have displacement. And that's why I think it's important. There's an advisory committee, I believe. Beverly, are you on the advisory committee for Breaking Ground?
No.
Okay. How many people were on it? Because I know they had. Is anybody on it yet? Because there was an.
Kareem, do you guys have a CAB?
There was an advisory committee for Breaking Ground. They said join it, didn't they?
I don't remember hearing about that.
I don't believe.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing about that.
Fine.
So, Kareem, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you, everyone in the room, for your questions. And we look forward to meeting your colleague, Kareem. Thank you. And just let him know, him or her, I'm assuming, and I apologize for that. Let that person know some of the questions that we asked, and so they can come prepared. Okay?
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And everyone.
And please watch that video, Kareem.
Everyone,
Yes.
the time now is 8:50. We thank you for coming and have a good night. Thank you, Khalid, for supporting us in this.